if we were talking about graphs, right, and statistics and all that shit and charts, that's where the line breaks from a steady, let's say, great, great, referring to Rocky 1 and 2. Then you got 3, which is like pretty good, good, kind of slopes a little bit downwards, but kind of stays steady, as you progress through the movie because, shout out to Mr. T, he was fun. Rocky was more aloof than usual. Rocky had to lose to win back the title in Rocky 3, of course. But then Rocky 4 is where that steady slope that Rocky 3 had hit kind of takes a little bump downwards. So it's another fall off from that line, but then it steadies out from there. And it kind of stays there at like good to I really only like this because I'm a fan and nostalgia, and Stallone is so cool and can do no wrongs, at least on screen as a larger than life figure. And you had a Drago, you had the death of Apollo Creed in that one. Oops, spoiler if you didn't see it, but you also had like 35 years to see it, so don't cry to me. And then you get Rocky 5, which is just not only does the steady line that Rocky 4 established, even though it's a much lesser line and lower than where Rocky 1 and 2 belong, and 3 stays up high enough. 4 is the middle ground, but then 5 again, that's that steep slope of just going down, 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 down. Just trickles on down the whole way. And Rocky 5, I did the review for that film as well. And shout outs again to my friend Ryan or Rhino. We did that together. That was a collaborative episode of how much we don't enjoy Rocky 5. I think he likes it more, a little more than I did. Out of 2, I think I gave it like a half a star, something like that. It's really not a good movie, and not one of those where, oh, it's not good within the franchise realms of the universe it comes from, but it's a good movie otherwise. No, it's just not a good movie at all. It's all over the place. It's a mess. Makes no sense. Messes up everything that, they've been building up from 1 to 4. It's just a mess of a fucking movie. Rocky 5, I mean, at least. Then they revindicated themselves with Rocky Balboa. Surprisingly, like, what was it, 16 years after the release of Rocky 5. So we thought Rocky 5 was it, but maybe Stallone's guilty conscience weighed him down so much. He said, "No, I got to do this all over again. Yo, I can't go out like that. No cap, bustin' for real. I do it 16 years later, do it again, Rocky Balboa." Which would have made sense when you think about the title, and would have been Rocky Balboa. No, actually, I did think about that too at the time. I know that was brought up in discussion, but I think Rocky Balboa being after Rocky 5 still makes sense because that would be the official end, as it was, at least for Rocky in his universe, of the Rocky franchise series. Because then it spun out into, what was it, 2013? I forget, 2011, something like that. Around that time, then we finally got Creed 1, then 2, then 3. All very excellent films in their own right, and starring, of course, the incredible, uh, what's his face? I keep forgetting. Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan, shouts to him. I like him a lot as an actor. He's pretty clutch. And shouts as always, and Chef's Kiss Mwah. That fine, 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 fine ass woman of his playing his wife. What? Imagine that. Two beautiful ass people like that getting together on film. It's not fair. Tessa Thompson doing the thing. But yeah, that's the whole Rocky thing. How I feel about it. 1 through 5 and Balboa, and then of course Creed 1 through 3, as I mentioned. But now we're talking about Rocky 2. Rocky 2, I'll make clear up front at this point now, so that there's no confusion, I guess you could say. Rocky 2, out of everything Rocky ever created, including the Creeds, is still my favorite Rocky movie of all time. Rocky 2 is neck and neck with 1, I feel, on both being so essential and great films in general. But I love the compromise you get from Rocky 2 just because it's so much more involved, and there's so much more on the line this time. Now, there's a lot of compromise in Rocky 1, of course, because he's the underdog, the guy that was probably meant to, make the rounds, literally, no pun intended, as a, boxer on the very local scene, never getting a chance to go against even a state champ or somebody of some relevance or importance in the boxing world, but then he gets picked randomly by the world champion to be like, okay, pick me a local. Pick me somebody that might be an easy little punching bag, whatever, perfectly Italian, I guess. Let's just have at it. And it turns out he gives the champion the fight of his life, almost beats him. They both fall down. Neither one wins or gets up. It's a draw. And the champ is pissed about it because guess what? He's a world champion. He's fucking super cocky. And of course, rest in peace, let's not forget, first and foremost, to Carl Weathers, aka Apollo Creed. Probably his most iconic role. I know he's done a bunch of other shit, Predator, there's the meme, Dylan, you son of a bitch, and all that. I get it. He's done a lot more. What was he, wasn't he Action Jackson as well? I think I watched that when I was young, when I really shouldn't have, and I don't remember it, and I don't remember it being good, to be honest. No offense, of course, rest in peace, Carl Weathers, but always in immaculate shape. Oh, and The Mandalorian, I think, was the last thing he was on screen for in season 2. Probably something like that. But shouts to him, rest in peace to him. An iconic man, always in great shape. Looked and was built like not just a boxer to look convincing in the film, but like a goddamn action figure. Like, just this immaculate physique and build. Also a great actor. Range, drama, skill, believability in him in every role he played. And again, one more time, rest in peace, Carl Weathers. But you got the world champ who's pissed about losing to this, according to him, yokel, this local guy, this Italian chicken, as he puts it, at some point in Rocky 2, saying, I want a goddamn rematch. And I love the way they start Rocky 2 with just recapping the very end of Rocky 1 with the first fight. I remember reading that after the fight is done within Rocky 1, supposedly Stallone wanted that to be a one and done deal for Rocky. As far as like the fight ends, it's just him and Adrian walking down like a dimly lit hallway through the back entrance of the stadium, walking out to the street with no sound and no audio, no dialogue, nothing. And just fades away like he went the distance as he wanted to, as far as just keeping up with the champ in a fight. Not necessarily winning and or losing, just like being able to like go the distance, go all the rounds included, and then leave it at that. Now it's a total tailspin with this one, where they recap the very end of the first movie, end of the first fight, where again they both go down, they both what was it? They both couldn't get up at the fucking 10 count or no. I'm thinking about the ending of this one. Sorry, so I meant to say the first one is where there's no decision. It's a draw according to everybody. And the champ can't live that down. Apollo Creed can't live that down. Fuck that. Because it's a matter of his ego, his pride is hurt by him having picked the fight or the fighter as well. And him making him look like he's a paper champion. Or, what they said about Tommy Guns in Rocky 5. Or making him feel like I got this belt for nothing. Meanwhile, this guy almost beat me for it. And the whole world looks at it like, damn, he was close to being the champ instead of like the champ made easy work of this chump from fucking Philly of all places, right? So that builds up the whole tension of 2, with, of course, in mind the end goal being, will he or won't he get a rematch? What does Rocky do now after he went the so-called distance that he wanted to and only wanted to this entire time and won? Well, turns out they both beat the shit out of each other, absolutely beat the fuck out of each other. As a reminder, in Rocky 1, the very last championship fight, Rocky has to beg Mickey to cut him open, cut me, because he can't see out his right eye, is really beat up and swole. And you got Creed in his corner. His guy's ready to throw in the towel, say that's enough, champ, can't have you do no more, your fucking ribs are noticeably damaged and injured, you could risk injury, and then whatever else. He's like, fuck that, I'm gonna beat this white motherfucker as fast as I can, even if it is the last round. I said I'd knock him down in 2. Apollo's really serious, so they go into the last round. He's like guarding his ribs purposely. Rock's trying to like fight literally with one eye. Thank God it's like one eye that's really swollen instead of one eye like almost hanging out of his head. Getting beat up like that by Apollo Creed. But they're going at it. It's the last fight, of course. They both go the distance. They make it to the very end. Nobody wins. It's by decision, whatever. And then Adrian comes running to the ring because all Rocky can worry about is calling out for Adrian. Yo, Adrian! Whatever. Blindly calling out there because he can't see. He can't see all the sweat and the blood and the closure of his right eye. He can't see shit, right? He's calling out to Adrian. Adrian comes running and pushing through the crowd. She's got a nice little fucking 70s hat on her head. And because she got so into pushing people out of the way and in the moment of, despair and anxiety and desperation building up to get to a man who didn't win but came close enough too, her hat flies off her head. She makes it to the ring. Rocky, first thing he says to her, as soon as she steps foot into the ring after she finally hears his mating call, "Yo, Adrian!" He points out, "Hey, where's your hat?" Of all things. And she says, "Shut up, I love you, you idiot." Just to point out, who gives a shit about the hat? It's about the moment, you fucking idiot. But again, we love Rocky because he's like a sincere dummy, if anything. And that's also another point I'd like to bring up too. How pure of character and of morale is Rocky Balboa, if you think about it. Because it seems like there's no real heavy taxing crime and or dirty deeds done by Rocky Balboa. You can tag to him, to his character, to make him seem like scum, make him seem like a bad guy, make him seem like he's the worst thing ever. I don't really see it with Rocky. I see him more as just like this kind of happened to have been raised by the streets, on the streets of Philly, kind of streetwise hooligan, made his bones, made his rounds. Of course, in the first ones established, he was like, he was the guy that would collect money from people that owed that local mob boss money, break their thumbs. He couldn't do it. He didn't feel like doing it. He was like a nice guy, so it wasn't in him to do that kind of shit. So he did his dirt, but only because he had no other choice, being that he barely finished school, apparently. You can hear it in his fucking talk, in his vocabulary. But there's nothing really at fault with Rocky because as the shit progresses, it shows you. He becomes a father. He becomes the head of the household. He marries Adrian, finally. He's a great brother-in-law to, of all people, Paulie, who really doesn't deserve it considering how he acts for most of the movie and most of the franchise, to be honest. But he's there. He's dependable. He's reliable. He cares about his family. He really, really loves his wife. Like, loves his wife. Holds her above anyone else. No other females ever caught the eye or the attraction or attention of Rocky. Well, he's so punchy he could barely pay attention, period. But no other female even comes close to Adrian in his eyes. He makes that clear every single time they're together on screen as a couple and any of the fucking movies they're in together. Becomes a dad, loves the kid so much, and is sincere even in his shortcomings too, because he makes his money from the first fight, 37,000 to be exact, as he told the local mob boss who went to congratulate him on getting married to Adrian. Only cleared 37,000, but then again, in 1979, 37,000. If we take inflation into account, maybe I want to say almost double that amount. So what is that? Quick math. It'd be like $74,000. Let's just say round it up to $75,000. $75,000 from a one-time fight. In nowadays terms, not too bad. Maybe you can get you like a fucking week of groceries or something like that. But still, having that random amount fall into your fucking lap like that for just going the distance with a boxing champion and not dying and living to be able to tell about, hey, bank, clear the check. Look at all the fucking zeros on that. 3 of them, but still, because of his shortcomings, because how, obviously he didn't pay attention to school. And he probably never did taxes because, I didn't know how to do the taxes. I just thought it was a one-year thing. Or if I ever get a real job, I never had no real job, I'm going to pay taxes, kind of thing, right? So he's very financially irresponsible, spends the fucking money on different things. You can't blame him, though, because if you get that and you think you're going to just get a job afterwards, and there was the fact that he was being offered, a deal to sign with an agency to do commercials and shit, and they kept emphasizing, in this year alone, with the commercials you'll do for us or with us, you'll make $300,000. He probably did the math, the very slow math in his head, and figured, well, that's more than enough to cover all the expenses and live a lavish lifestyle and live with that. But then, if you remember, during the whole commercial part, which is hilarious, and really puts the spotlight on Rocky again, his shortcomings, how sincere of a guy he is, but he's only so much of an intellectual per se. He can't read properly. He can't read the cue cards. He's fucking up the lines and shit. Just to show proof, if you want a point of reference, I'll put up a clip here of something I did parodying that very same scene, which I love so much, Rocky 2.
Go now. In the morning, I splash it on, and it makes me smell mainly. Excuse me, I know I said it wrong, but it really don't smell manly. You think this stuff smells like a man? I say absolutely no. In the morning, I splash it on, and it surrounds my face with class. And beast aftershave will turn the women into beasts. If you want to be the king of the beasts and smell like a jungle rat, cat, rat, cat. Hi, my name is Rocky Balboa, the time stallion. They say I'm the American dream, but not cut. Can I do it over again?
And yeah, he's like, he can't get the lines right at all. Director's getting fed up with him. You've wasted 4 hours of our time because you can't read. You're a dummy. Get out of here. You're very unprofessional. As rude as the director was, understandably, he is frustrated because he's got a very difficult subject to work with, which no one preempted him with saying, oh, by the way, this guy can't read, so maybe just feed him the lines or something in the ear, or, you know, have him memorize the shit beforehand so he'll know what to say. Could have cut some corners. I don't know if that's how it works in the casting or the acting directing world. I would think I preempt that shit. Possibly if I'm getting someone dyslexic or just like dumb as Rocky is, but lovable, dumb but lovable, and make them memorize a shit, talking to an earpiece, something like that, instead of forcing them to read on the spot and then not knowing, oh, this motherfucker can't read, so I'm just gonna waste my whole day here and blow the whole budget while I get one piece of film that's worthwhile editing or keeping up, even dare put up in a commercial or something like that, right? So he can't do that. So he's literally stuck with the money he's made from the first fight, but he blows right through it. So he buys a couple of Rolexes for himself, for Paulie, and for Adrian. All right, commendable. That's not too crazy. In 1979, probably didn't go for too much, I would think. I don't know. He buys a really nice, I think it's satin, but like a bomber jacket with like a tiger, like patch on the back. Good looking jacket, you know. With that jacket, he buys her a big ass fur, I think it's a fur or a mink coat that they saw on display in the glass panel over there. The biggest purchase, I thought at least up until this point, was the 1979 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, which is a beautiful vehicle in and of itself. It's a nice little muscle car. He can't drive for shit, obviously. It's Rocky. Obviously, he didn't do his taxes. That's obvious. He's never held down a real job. That's obvious. He's too busy beating guys up at the docks that owe gambling money. That's obvious. So when the fuck was he ever going to find time to drive? Because Rocky doesn't seem like the guy to be like a carjacker or taking little joyrides when he's like 12, 13, breaking into cars, stealing the stereos. If they did that back in the 70s, I'm not too sure. But just figure out the time and maneuver himself well enough to know how to drive or get licensed to drive at least. You would think at least he'd be a hard-working, honest citizen, at least with his fist, hard-working, honest citizen, the way Rocky Balboa is, he'd get a license. But no, not even a fucking learner's permit, not even intent to get a permit, nothing. He just says, hey, yo, of course I know how to drive. I'm one of the greatest drivers ever. I drive planes, I drive tractors, I'll drive you crazy if you give me the chance. Say, yo, kind of thing, right? Sincere, but yeah, he's like, he can't drive for shit. So that's the big purchase until the final big purchase, which is an actual smart investment, a big-ass house. It seems like a big-ass house, at least. I don't own a house, so every house seems big to me. But Rocky's now a homeowner. But before he's able to buy the house, Adrian is smart enough to talk up the real estate agent, ask the real questions instead of him just going blind, like, I just toss the bag at him, we'll make it work some way, somehow. But she's the one asking questions. Oh, is there copper piping in the home, asking about the foundation, and she even went to talk to the bank, talking about they can give us a $16,000 mortgage at 9.5%, which doesn't sound too bad considering the amount. But goddamn, they try to get you nowadays, especially post-pandemic, with those goddamn mortgages. I've been looking. It's not the best time, according to many reports, and also self-investigating myself. But she's able to look at that. She made time to look at that. Obviously, Rocky wasn't going to do it. She knew that. She preemptively striked with that. But he says, yo, we'll just get the house. He doesn't even want to look at the upstairs or nothing. He just worries about having space for his punching bag, a nice kitchen, someplace to put the radio and the TV. We're talking about the 70s, of course, so that's ancient technology, right? And there he is, Rocky Balboa, the homeowner. He probably signed the name on the fucking lease, said Rocky Balboa, boom, 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 homeowner. And it seems like the house was the final purchase that really put the final nail in the coffin as far as his finances are concerned, because they're all gone after that. To the point where Adrian has to go back to work at the pet shop where she was at in the first one, part-time, but still at least have some funds coming in enough to buy some groceries and feed themselves in this big-ass empty home they just now purchased. You know, he couldn't do the commercial gig no more. He couldn't do the commercial gigs at all. He's too dumb to read. So he does say, oh, I'll just get me an office job and make a good salary there, right? How hard could that be? But he goes in a terribly tacky rental tuxedo suit to every interview he goes for in person. They all turn him away because obviously he has no office experience, and you know he's the boxer guy that almost beat the champs. Is like, why aren't you boxing, and why do you want to waste your time being a white collar worker amongst us, being a fucking nerd, a pencil pusher, if anything, right? Get in there and fucking bash some heads into something like that. In their minds are saying that, but they're polite enough not to say that. They just tell them, sorry, sir, you're not qualified enough for the position available at the moment. We appreciate your time. And he's going from job to job. Eventually, he's got to give his car up to Paulie. He's like, hey, Paulie, you want to buy this car? He goes to see him at the docks. Paulie's like, he can smell it from a mile away. It's like, are you having money trouble? Are you having money trouble, Rock? What's she doing to you? You know how Paulie always talked in despair. I love that about Paulie. That was my favorite part. Like there's always like a crack in his voice, and every single line he has like, what's she doing to you, Rock? Huh? Kind of thing. So he won't buy the car, but he does end up buying the car. But then Rock just ends up giving him the keys to the car anyway. So who knows if there was an actual transfer of funds at some point too. Maybe later on off screen we know he hand him a fistful of bills for the car and shit, and says, hey, as he drives those, hey, if you two ever needs the car, just let me know, and I got you, kind of thing. Down on his luck, he's got to go back to the fucking slaughterhouse where he had his training before, the infamous beating up the fucking cow ribs and shit. He gets a job there. He's working part-time every other week, barely making any fucking ends whatsoever, but he's doing his part though, as a man, as a hard-working, honest man. It's tough times for him, just to get canned sometime later anyway, because union rules. We got to keep the ones with the most time, on the site. You got the least amount of time here, so you're cut. Boom, he's out of there. No money whatsoever. And he says, you know what, fuck it. I just got to get back in the fight. And I got to fight again. I got to make this happen. It's all I know how to do. Tells Adrian at some point, I don't tell you to ever stop being a woman, so don't tell me to stop being a man, which was bars. Philosophical almost. So he ends up doing it again. He goes back to Mickey. He gets like a job, or he doesn't get a job with Mickey. I think Mickey just took him in to be like, another fucking asshole here ready to, change the spit buckets and, wipe down the shit when we're done, close it for the day, whatever. He's there, but people are making fun of him. All the other boxers who should be respecting him are laughing at him or looking at him like a cow, because now, at this point, Apollo is putting in, like, the newspapers and they're talking on TV, talking about he's a pussy, he's a cow, he's a punk, he's a chump. I'm gonna fuck him up, but he won't let me fuck him up because he don't want this rematch because he's a fucking pussy and a coward. And I remind you again, a pussy and a coward and a pussy, whichever way you put it. This man's got no heart. He's the Italian chicken running away from me day and night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Wherever you fucking want it, boy, you can get it, kind of thing. He's on that type of energy, on that tip, but only because, again, his ego is the most bruised of them all. They spent their time in the hospital, laid up together. Apollo with the ribs, Rocky with his eye and his nose broken. He went to go see Apollo at some point and said, oh, Apollo, did you give me your all out there? Did you give your all to me? I'll give my all to you on some John Legend shit. And Apollo's like, of course I did, Balboa. What'd you fuck expect, boy? But that's the part that hurts him, as well as all the fan mail, the hate mail that Apollo gets the whole time, saying you're a fake fucking champ, you piece of shit, you fixed that fight. Next time, take a dive. You're gonna lose like that on purpose, you fucking pussy and twat and all that. And he can't get over it. So that's the only reason, the real reason why he wants that rematch in the beginning. In the first place, I mean to say, with Rocky. Which Rocky ends up taking the bait only off of Mickey's insistence after seeing the TV spot. Who's like, he's a fucking chicken, he's a coward, da-da-da. You know, rattling off on Rocky, calling him all types of fucking things. Mickey says, let's get in him, let's fucking destroy him, all that shit. Adrian's not happy about it while she's still working at the pet shop. Pregnant, by the way, too. Working at the pet shop. Stressing herself out. All that shit. And then that leads up to motherfucking Adrian giving birth 1 month early. Earlier than expected. Do I forget the name of the child, but was Rocky Jr.? I forget, honestly. But they give birth, she gives birth to the child, but while she's giving birth to the child, she was hemorrhaging and losing a lot of blood. So boom, she slips into a fucking coma. So now double compromise. And he's one of those where I don't want to see the kid. I don't want to see the kid until I see my wife out of a coma. That's just what makes sense to me. You know? So commendable, but I remember that kind of shit being like in soap operas and or the movies of the week type of shit, which is always like, it makes you think. Would you, in that case scenario, do the same? I would probably do the same. I want to see my wife safely out of harm's reach, so then that way and only then would I see the child we made, based off our physical labors, dick in, dick out, pussy wet, pussy dry, and then 9 months later, the whole thing comes out of this hole, a pleasant surprise, right? That's how it's supposed to work. But she's in a coma. He goes to see her every day at her bedside, reading to her, making sure she's okay, like a good fucking husband. This Rocky guy's a good fucking husband. Oh, shit. You never would have expected. You would have expected like a boxer, as dumb as he is, and all he knows is how to work his fists and his hands to make things, connect or make ends meet. He'd probably be a wife beater. But no, thank God, you gotta clap it up for him. You gotta clap it up for him, thank God. He's not a wife beater, not at all. He's just a good guy, happens to be a boxer, happens to be raised on those streets of Philly, but he knows his way around a woman, which is just caress your woman, love your woman, uphold and build up your women, as we all should. I do too at home, that's my girlfriend. I'm very good to her. She's very good to me in return, in many ways, more than one. Wink, wink, ha 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 ha. And then she pleasantly surprises him by getting out of the coma. They're popping champagne, they're celebrating. Finally, we all meet the baby together, his parents, co-parenting and shit. And she says, come here, you gotta promise me one thing. He's like, yo, what? And she's like, when? And then Mickey's like, what are we waiting for? Get back to training, because at this point, too, he's also training. He did accept the fight after a press conference and everything. But he's like half-assing it. He's like not fully committed. He's kind of like getting so tired and so like distressed. It's like, I can't box no more, really. I'm not as good as I was. Or he did intend to retire after the first fight with Apollo. That's the thing, too. That's the selling point. But because he knows nothing else to do with his life besides be a boxer until he probably drops dead in the ring or something like that, he just gives it another try. And now, especially with his wife co-signing and backing him up, he's got no choice but to go back in there and win the goddamn thing for both of them. For him, for her, the kid, and for the fucking financial security and future, of course. And, of course, for Paulie to leech off of them because, Paulie's gotta get fit too. I gotta get my hands too. Then we get the epic, my favorite, and another reason why this is my favorite one of all of them. We get the epic Rocky 2 training montage music. Dun, 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 dun. The first one wasn't bad. Obviously, it's also classic, memorable in its own sense. But this one was just more dramatic, more in the moment, much more compromise. All these factors coming in together and pouring their energy into him and him turning it into, I gotta win this thing now. I gotta face my demons, face my fears again, but this time I gotta beat the shit out the champ and win it for myself, the kid, Paulie, Adrian, all that shit too. So I just love the music. It builds up epically, beautifully, as it should, for every sort of training montage scene. That's been parodied so many fucking times at this point. Just name the show that does parodies. They've definitely done a Rocky 2 or Rocky-esque training montage parody of some sorts in homage to this one, which is so epic again. And it's just a seal of the... And then also, the not so great part for me was like, it almost seems like obligatory when he's running through the fucking neighborhood and the little neighborhood markets and all that shit. And the kids start chasing him after he's at the training montage too. And they're all running down, Philly. They're going up the Rocky steps. And it's the kids in the chorus singing the shit too. That part was always kind of corny to me. But it's not bad. It's just like, did we really need that? I think the training montage should have cut right there, go right to the fight. But it didn't do that. Rocky's at home, cuts to that too, dropping the baby off in the fucking crib, and being like, I'm going to be late for my fight. He's got to leave the wife behind because, besides having no sex after directly giving birth, she can't attend fights either because it'll be too much and too stressful for her. So then he goes off, he gets the blessing from Father, hey, yo, Father Carmine! He gets the blessing, a drive-by blessing from the Father Carmine, who somehow only speaks Italian but understands English perfectly well, or when it comes time to give contributions to the church, he understands that plenty well. Like, grazie. Whatever, right? There's the fight. The fight is epic. How else can I describe the fight besides being epic? Like, the first time around. Like, I only wish I was old enough to appreciate the movie back when it released initially, so I could see, like, the audience reaction to, like, every blow and impact. Even though, in the fight, let's admit, 1 and 2, a lot of the punches are clearly missing the other guy. They didn't fix those angles appropriately enough to do so, but it still works because it's still Rocky at the end of the day. It's not so much about the fight. We're not watching a 2-hour legit real fight. We're watching a whole story about a boxer building up to this very moment that'll pay off with him being world champ. Hopefully, we pray, right? But of course, he does win. He wins at this time. It comes down to both of them getting knocked down at the same time. They're both trying to beat the 10 count to get back up on their feet before they both get counted out again. Another draw, which people will really fucking hate. But Apollo at 9, he's like dangling to the ropes. He just fucking collapses on his face. Rocky's able to fucking bounce right up at 10. He's a world champion. Congratulations. You fucking did it. And all that shit. Wife's at home watching. Yo, Adrian, I did it. Again. But I get it this time, which actually means something worthwhile. Hey, yo. Kind of thing, right? Shouting out his kid and balling. It's a wonderful fucking glorious scene. Of course, he had to be world champion the second time around. What if we never get another Rocky after Rocky 2? At least he went off as champion. And hard fought as it was, he became champion. That's the greatest thing. I will also add to this. I may have to use this or steal this from this movie, this line, when it comes time to propose. Because I think it's a very sincere and sweet bar. And Rocky's got some great jokes and humor sprinkled throughout the film. One-liners, throwaway lines like that too. It really should be studied if it hasn't been already, the dialogue in Rocky 1 and 2. He's got a lot of fucking little, like, bars, as the kids say. But especially this one, if you're ever going to propose and you want to steal from me, since I'm stealing from the movie, hey, yo, what are you doing for the next 40 to 50 years? I was wondering if you wouldn't mind marrying me very much. And it's such a fire line because they're in the snow at the zoo watching a tiger. She says yes, of course, because she's just wet off the thought of this, like, very in shape, good looking Italian man who can make a lot of money, or who made a lot of money from boxing of all things, wants me to marry him and shit, right? So why wouldn't she get excited and, of course, want to marry him? And then also, even when they're taking the vows, I do, she says I do, and he says, thank you. It's so polite of him to fucking do it. And I guess one last thing, too, before we go, is a little fun fact about the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am he bought. I can't confirm this myself, but it does look like a really cool, unique design on it, which would probably be the selling point and probably be, like, confirmation as such. But apparently that Pontiac Firebird Trans Am he's got in the movie is not only a 1979 edition, which came out the same year the release of the movie. Cars come out a little bit before the year they're actually, like, meant to come out for. But it's a special edition Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, a Smoking the Bandit special edition version of the vehicle, because it's apparently pertaining to the popularity of Smoking the Bandit, which came out like a year and change before Rocky 2. They made a whole special edition for it, and I guess Stallone really wanted to sell, like, the coolness, the wowness of that vehicle specifically, which, those times you had, like, the Stingray Corvettes, you definitely, I don't know if you had the Countaches back in the 70s, but definitely there was a bunch of Lambos and Ferraris, like, laying around. It would have been, like, just perfect. But then you get the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, which seems, like, attainable considering how much money he made. If you got economists watching the movies, of course, they're gonna be like, wait, 37,000. He bought it at that time. That car cost that much at that time in 1979. It doesn't add up, kind of thing, right? That car kind of fits the bill. For the sake of the financial allowance permitted to buy such a vehicle, and it makes sense. It's probably economical. And an economically safe choice at the time. Adrian probably co-signed or consented to it, so fuck it. He got it. But apparently it's a special edition Smoking the Bandit 1979 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. Say that 3 times fast, what a mouthful. So of course, what else is there to say about Rocky at the very end too? Rocky 2 at the very end. Besides the fact that it's, again, as I pointed out earlier, my favorite Rocky movie out of every single one in the franchise. If I had to give this a score, which I will right now, obviously, 2 out of 2. There's no other way to fucking put this movie as far as me loving it that much. It's my favorite of all the Rockies, as I just mentioned again. I put it as one of my favorite of all times, along with Godfather 2, Rocky 2. I can't really think in the moment what else I would throw up in there, but those two are definitely given staples in my favorites of all time. And I just love the whole build-up leading to the finale of 2. Not to say 1 wasn't good. 1 was excellent. They're both neck and neck for me. But if I had to pick, I'd say 2 for me, just because of all the build-up leading up to the end, in comparison to the build-up of 1, which is like the telling of the story. 2 is now you know the story and how he came up, but now they're come up together, everything they got to go through together as well, and the challenge coming back, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity knocking twice on his door for him to go and get it, right? If he wants it that bad. And he does, because now he's got a whole family support, wife co-signs, baby right there expecting, food and titty milk and all that shit and diapers. So yeah, there you go. I mean, I can't really think of anything bad to say about the movie at all. It holds up. It's still funny, charming, amusing, endearing after all this time. Hard not to fucking like Rocky 2. I really would struggle to find something bad with it.
Yo, it's over. All right, it's over. It's over. Move the mic. Move the mic.
Thank you.